everybody. Welcome back to our little nutrition class. Today we're going to be covering phosphorus, which is a mineral. It is highly available in our diet, so you usually don't have to worry about taking supplements for phosphorus because it is in a lot of processed foods, which we get plenty of that. So it's not something to be concerned about. We're just trying today to go over what it does in the body and why it's important. It plays a bunch of roles actually. It plays a key role in bone and teeth health. The phosphorus along with the calcium form structural matrices to form bones and teeth. So it is important for your teeth and your bone development and maintenance. Energy metabolism is also an important role that it plays. It's a part of ATP, which is a type of energy that our body produces. So you have to have phosphorus to produce ATP. They do say that some athletes might need extra phosphorus for ATP production because they are burning so many calories, and that translates into energy. And then let's see what else we have. Cell membrane structure. So you have to have phosphorus. It's part of the cell membrane and it is essential in that aspect. And then it also is a component of DNA and RNA. Phosphorus forms the backbone of DNA and RNA. So you do need it to form both of those. And if you guys have any questions along the way, just let me know. Okay, and then enzyme activation. Phosphorus is part of molecules that work as coenzymes that regulate metabolic pathways. And then it's found in both animal and plant sources. It's in some meats like beef, pork, and chicken, and then also in fish like salmon and tuna, and dairy products like milk, cheese, and yogurt. Then the plant-based are going to be legumes, nuts and seeds, whole grains. And then phosphorus is an additive in a lot of foods, so you will see it. It's common in sodas, processed meats, and then packaged foods as well. Hi everybody, thanks for joining. We're covering phosphorus today. The recommended daily allowance for adults is 700 milligrams, and we usually get well over that with our regular diet. So phosphorus isn't something that you usually need to supplement. And then let's see what else we have. Absorption and bioavailability. Absorption, phosphorus is primarily absorbed in the small intestine, and 70% bioavailability from natural sources. And then let's see, causes of deficiency for phosphorus could be malnutrition or starvation, and then malabsorption diseases like Crohn's disease and celiac disease, and excessive use of phosphate binding medications. That'll include antacids, which contain aluminum and can have a negative effect on your phosphorus absorption. And then symptoms of phosphorus deficiency would be weakness, fatigue, and muscle pain. And then also bone pain or rickets, and then loss of appetite, irritability, and neurological symptoms in very severe cases. And then populations at risk will be premature infants. So if you do have a preemie, that is something to consider, or people with kidney disease. That will reduce your phosphorus breakdown and absorption as well. And then, like I said, sources include processed food, which we all get a ton of that, more than we need. Kidney disease, so patients with chronic kidney disease often need to limit their phosphorus intake due to impaired excretion. which can lead to multiple issues. So that is something to consider. If you have kidney disease, you may need to watch your phosphorus intake. The bad thing about phosphorus is it's not labeled on the nutrition label, so it's hard to know how much you're getting. But if we're aware of the foods that it's in and our intake, then that's something that we can adjust accordingly ourselves if we are having issues. And then you always want to consult with a dietitian if you do have a specific issue, so they can make the plan according to your needs. And then let's see, calcium and phosphorus work together in bone health. The ideal ratio would be 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, calcium and phosphorus. So a little bit more calcium if possible than phosphorus for maximum absorption and bone health. And then vitamin D enhances phosphorus absorption in the gut. So vitamin D can help improve your phosphorus levels if they're low. And then magnesium works with phosphorus for energy metabolism. So those two work hand in hand for your energy. And then iron as well. Iron may reduce your phosphorus intake by binding with it in the gut. So that's not ideal. And then focus on, natural sources. We want to stay away from processed stuff as much as possible. Also, always the natural source would be the better source. So definitely look into the natural sources, like in your meats and your plant-based stuff like nuts and legumes. And limit processed foods. That's always. We want to limit our intake of processed foods, which are full of chemicals. And like I always say, if your food's not alive, it won't help you live. So if your food doesn't go bad and it's sitting in a box, more than likely it's very processed. And then you want to always monitor your kidney function. If you have issues, consult with a dietitian. And then balance with calcium. Ensure adequate calcium intake from dairy and fortified milk products. And also try to maintain a healthy calcium to phosphorus ratio, which we talked about, preferably 2-to-1 calcium to phosphorus. But 1-to-1 is acceptable as well. And then let's see what else I got for you guys. The Western diet is high in processed foods, so phosphorus is usually not an issue on intake. Kidney health, like I said, that's something, if you have kidney problems, you definitely want to consider your phosphorus levels. And then plant-based diets may help lower bioavailability of phosphorus. They're generally sufficient though for your intake, but if you are on a plant-based diet, it is something to consider. So that's the gist on phosphorus. I don't know if you guys have any questions. Thanks everyone for joining. If you're new here, our goal with these lives is to give you guys information that you could apply to your life if it has meaning. What we're doing is we're getting back to the basics, getting back to the simple things. Sometimes we always want to find solutions and we overthink stuff. So we're trying to get back to the basics. Natural food, chemical-free food, and products. So that's really our goal here, is to educate and to give you guys the information. And if you have anything going on in your body, maybe what we go over can help you connect the dots and figure out what's going on, and then you can address it and improve your health status. We always want to try to stay away from pharmaceuticals if they're not necessary. Some people do require pharmaceuticals because of ailments that they have, but if you're taking a pharmaceutical and you don't maybe deem it necessary, look into different changes you can do with your diet or something like that. A healthy diet can totally change your health status, so it is nothing to be overlooked, even though a lot of us do. You are what you eat, and if you want to maintain your health, you have to start with what we put in our mouths. That's a good start. And like I said, we tend to want to overcomplicate things for whatever reason, and it's not something that we should do. Sometimes we have to step back and see what are the simple things, what are the small things that I can change. So always starting your day off with a glass of water, that is a plus. It gets your gut going. It's good to have a glass of water before your coffee if you can. And then also in the morning, you know what's really good? Sunlight. So listen to this. I'll listen to this like crazy nerdy podcaster, and he like gets into the nitty gritty of science. Okay, so he says there is a mechanism where the sunlight in the morning for animals naturally wakes them up. So when we put our sunglasses on the way to work, we could be preventing ourselves from waking up naturally, which makes total sense. So now that I know this information, and that the sunlight, when it hits your eyeballs in the morning, it makes you wake up. So now on my way to work, I was like a huge sunglasser. Not anymore. And when I tell you, whenever I get to work, usually before, when I was wearing sunglasses, I would be slightly groggy. And now I'm really not. Like, my eyes are awake when I get to work, and it's from the sunlight. It's from not preventing the sunlight from getting into my eyeballs with sunglasses. So like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, what are ways to improve our health that are so simple, and just something that we overlook and just maybe not have the information to apply. But so I live by this. If I am in the car during the day, once I'm already awake, sometimes I'll put sunglasses on, but for the most part, especially in the morning, I do not put sunglasses on, so we can get some of that vitamin D into our eyes and to wake us up. And I swear by this, I never go to work with groggy eyes anymore, where before I'd walk into work and it almost felt like I just woke up. So it definitely works. It's not a tall tale. It is backed by science and tried and tested by yours truly. So I highly recommend, if you are a sleepy person, or just regardless, on your way to work, don't wear sunglasses. You can wear them on the way home, because the sunlight in the afternoon can confuse your body. If you're only getting it in the afternoon, it might be like, hey, oh, you're woken up, it's wake up time. So that is something to consider. But what a cool concept, right? Like, small things like that, we've slowly taken ourselves out of nature where we naturally occur. You know, like housing and sunglasses and shoes and all that, that is man-made products, you know. So another thing that this science guy said is that touching grass can naturally detoxify the body, and it's also works for animals. You know, animals are always have their feet on the ground, so that's kind of like the animal's natural medicine. And also it releases a sleepy chemical. So I guess like the more of your body that touches the ground, it'll release like a relaxing sleepy chemical in your body. And I started thinking about it. I was like, that's weird. Well, I'm guessing whenever the animals lay down to go to sleep, it will make them tired. Like, so the more of their body, more surface area that's touching the ground, the more of this chemical will be released. So I was like, oh wow, you know, like, science is very complicated, but it always comes back to the basics. So like I said, that's what we're kind of trying to do here. I'm trying to share information. I went to school, I graduated in dietetics. I have a bachelor of dietetics in science. So it's just information that I've learned over time that has helped me, and I want to share it with everyone else. So if you guys ever have any specific topics you want me to cover, anything that's trending, or things that you have questions about, I'm more than happy to go and do the research myself and provide you that information. If you're new here, we have already covered the basics of nutrition, the macronutrients, which is protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Then we've also done a live on all of the different vitamins, and now we're getting into the minerals. So today was phosphorus, and we'll just go over each mineral. More of them later down the line will be more familiar to you, like sodium, stuff that we hear about. Phosphorus is kind of something that we don't always talk about or know about. It's not on the nutrition label. But it's important to know these things, especially if it's not on the nutrition label, because how are you supposed to identify it? And now you have the information, you know where phosphorus is in your diet. And if you have any type of kidney disease or GI issue, any like gut issues like celiac disease or Crohn's disease, then your phosphorus may be something that you need to look into and consult with a healthcare professional like a dietitian or your doctor. But so yeah, that's pretty much the gist of what I have for you guys today. If you have any specific questions about phosphorus, just leave it down in the comments and I will happily answer. And like anything nutrition, like if you have a question about nutrition, let me know. If I don't know the answer off the top of my head, I will go and do the research for you guys. We're here with no reservations. We're not here for financial reasons. We're here to educate people and to give good advice that is unbought and paid for, and it's genuine. Like, we've been trying to clean up our products, and I had to go back on a product that I recommended to you guys because I found out more information later down the road, and that's okay. We're always ebbing and flowing and changing and trying to address the issue so we can find a solution for it. And it's really sometimes that simple. Like I said, in this world that we live in, it's hard to get back to the basics, but that's what we're here to do. And we're going to get there together. It's always a slow road of improvement. You never want to do like an all or nothing thing. Like when it comes to dieting and nutrition especially, like it's called a fad diet for a reason, because it's going to fade. It's going to go away. What you need to do is make small gradual changes that will really change your life. Like, say if you know that you're drinking too much soda and you're not supposed to be drinking that much soda because you're trying to be in a calorie deficit, okay? Well, if you're drinking 6 sodas in a day, which is a lot of calories, probably close to 800 calories, I would say, if it's a Coca-Cola or something like that, reduce it down to 3. Cut it in half. Don't say, I'm just going to quit drinking Coke completely, because that doesn't always work for people. What happens is you start to feel deprived and then you just give up. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So making small changes makes everything more feasible and easier to do. So it's something to consider whenever you're trying to make a change. It's not like I'm going to eat terrible all this week and then I'm going to have the perfect diet next week. That's not the goal here. The goal is to make lifestyle changes that we can implement every day into our lives, and small changes and small improvements that'll lead to big changes and big improvements down the road. So, like I said, if you're drinking 3 Dr. Peppers, maybe narrow it down to 2 and then down to 1. That's where you're going to find real success. And if it's something that you do every day, it will add up over time. Like if you're eating one too many handfuls of Hershey's Kisses a night, each Hershey's Kiss has 20 calories. So you could say for every 5, it's 22 calories actually. For every 5 Hershey's Kisses, you're getting 100 calories. So you can have 5, but if you sit down and have 20, then now you're at 400 calories. So if you're trying to get into a calorie deficit, that 400 calories, if you're doing it every day, can add up on you. And say you might be eating the perfect meals, something healthy, and then at night, that's what you tend to do, which is my problem. That's where the calories will add up, and if you do it every day, eventually you will gain weight from that repetitive behavior. But say if you're eating 20 and then you decide, hey, that's too many, I'm obviously not doing something right, my body is not losing weight, then go down to 5. That's how. It's not like, okay, screw the candy, like I don't want it. It's like, no, reduce your intake and then take it from there. It's that way you won't feel deprived and you don't have a snack to eat. But it's just about snacking responsibly and eating responsibly. No one's putting the food to your mouth. You're doing it yourself. It took me a long time to come to terms with that. I always felt like a victim to my eating, but I'm the one feeding myself. I'm an adult. I have to take accountability for my actions. Passive eating will only harm you. So taking accountability is essential, really. The first step is contemplating or pre-contemplating and then contemplating, admitting that you have a problem or that there's something that needs to be changed or fixed, and trying to fix a behavior. Every behavior you will usually fall off and not do exactly like you're supposed to, but the best thing to do in those circumstances is to correct the behavior as quickly as possible. So if you have a slumber party with your girlfriends and there's cake and ice cream and candy, don't deprive yourself and be like, I'm on a diet, I can't have cake or candy. What you need to do is watch your portion sizes, take accountability, and then the next day after the slumber party, you do better. It's not like, oh, I did bad yesterday, let me continue to do bad. That's how we get caught in these bad cycles of eating, and that's how the diet always comes for Monday, because we haven't been successful the Monday before, the Monday before, and the Monday before. So, like I said, taking accountability, doing small steps, looking at it as a lifestyle change and not a diet. You're not depriving yourself of anything. You're maintaining the optimal nutrition for what your body needs. You know, we're eating, what it is it's fuel. It's fuel for us to get through the day, for our hearts to beat, for our body to do all of the basic functions. So if you're overeating and the body doesn't have anything to do with that energy, it's going to store it. So it's really that simple. You have to eat less calories than you burn to lose weight. You have to eat the same amount of calories that you burn to maintain, or you have to eat more calories than you burn to gain weight. It's really that simple. It's not that complicated. Oh, carbohydrates, protein, and fat, this is the good guy, this is the bad guy. That's not the way to look at it. You know, if you are doing a specialized diet for whatever reason, that's okay. But input versus output is really that simple. Also, carbohydrates and protein have 4 calories per gram, okay? So say if you're looking at your nutrition label and it says that it has it says you have 10 grams of carbohydrates. So what you do is you multiply 10, which is the gram of carbohydrates, times 4, which is the calories per gram of carbohydrates, and you'll be getting 40 calories from that 10 grams of carbohydrates. Does that make sense? The same thing for protein. If you have, say, 20 grams of protein, 20 times 4 would be 80 calories you're getting from the protein. So that's how it breaks down on the nutrition label. It can be hard to understand sometimes. And then fat is the most calorie dense of the macronutrients. Fat is going to have 9 calories per gram. So if you have, say, I don't know, 2 grams of fat, on your nutrition label, you'll multiply that 2 times 9, which is the amount of calories per grams when it comes to fat. So that would put you at 18 calories coming from the fat. So I thought that was interesting when I learned that in nutrition. I'd always look at the nutrition labels and I never fully understood how it broke down. But if you go into your nutrition label and it says that you have 100 calories, if you go do the math times 4 for the protein and the carbohydrates and times 9 for the fat, it should bring you to the amount of calories that is in on the label. So just kind of put it into more real terms versus just a piece of paper or a label. And then nutrition labels, you know, are tricky because everyone needs a different amount of calories. All of our bodies aren't built the same. Some people have a slower metabolism, some people are blessed with a higher metabolism. So everyone has to adjust accordingly. Your body's not going to lie to you. So if you're eating, say, 1,500 calories a day and you're gaining weight, then your body doesn't require 1,500 calories a day. So you'll need to reduce your intake. And like I said, the small steps are the biggest deal. So just like I said, to reduce your intake, say if you're eating 1,500, try to knock it down to 1,400 calories a day. And do that for a week. If you're still not seeing results or potentially still gaining weight, then your calorie intake needs to be lower. Go down to 1,300 calories a day. And so far, and you know, small steps like that will make a bigger difference than being like, I'm gonna eat just salad for 2 days, and then all of a sudden you're back to your old bad habits. So it really is, like I said, about small steps like that where you're not overwhelmed, but you're still moving in the right direction, which is very important in the diet world. Your diet's not going to lie to you. If you're gaining weight, you're just overeating. And if you're losing weight, then you're eating less than you burn. It's really about being in a calorie deficit. Also, if you're, say you've been eating just normal, no restrictions, no dieting, the thing that you have to be aware of is that the first couple nights that you are in a calorie deficit, you are going to have to go to bed hungry, and you're going to have to deal with some hunger pains, and that's just part of it, okay? Well, let me explain myself. So your stomach is flexible and can stretch. So whenever you've been eating just say bigger portions, your stomach will be stretched out, okay? And then at the top of your stomach there's a little round connection to your intestine, and that is called your sphincter. And what happens is once the food in your belly hits that sphincter at the top of your stomach, it signals to your brain, hey, I'm full. So that's how the body works in that aspect. So while you're dieting for the first couple days, what's happening is your stomach sac is shrinking, okay? So you have to give it time to not be over full so that it can shrink back to its normal size. And what that entails is having to be hungry just for a day or two. At night, whenever you're getting that craving for that snack, just sit back and distract yourself. That works very well instead of just sitting around thinking about food. Like for instance, I do hula hoop for exercise. I also sell them, but say if I'm like craving a snack and I just can't get it off my mind and it's torturing me, I'll just go grab my hula hoop and I'll start doing a little workout. It doesn't have to be anything extreme, but the point of it is to distract my mind from obsessing over eating a snack. A lot of times, I mean, really most of eating, it is a mental approach. So it's really about getting yourself out of that mindset and into a better mindset where you're not thinking about the food. But that absolutely works. So you should give it a try. Like, you could do other stuff. It doesn't have to be exercise. It could be If you're into arts and crafts, have a little project on the side that is incomplete. Whenever you're feeling sorry for yourself because you're hungry and you know that you shouldn't be eating, go and start on your project. You know, it really is about healthy lifestyle changes. And it can be much more simple than we try to approach things. So like I said, small steps like that, and then having to deal with the hunger for 2 days, then once you get to like the 3rd or 4th day, your belly will signal to your brain that you're fuller faster because the stomach is shrunken. I'm trying to think of the best way I could describe it. It would almost be like those workout rubber bands that you use. Your stomach would be similar to that. It can stretch or it can go back to its original size. So if it's constantly being stretched, then you're going to have to eat more food to fill your belly and to touch that sphincter at the top of it that tells you that you're full. So that's why you do have to go to bed hungry, because you're not going to be touching that sphincter with the food, so your brain's going to think that you're hungry. But it's just a little mind trick that you have to deal with for a little while, so don't get discouraged and be like, this is going to be forever, I'm going to be starving. It doesn't have to be like that. We just really have to form a healthy relationship with food and to find the holes in our diet. Like, if you're eating a good lunch and you're eating a good dinner, then what's going on? Are you eating too heavy of a breakfast? Is your snacking maybe too much, you know? So also, like, something that my mom always taught me throughout the years is finding a healthy alternative. There's a lot of healthy alternatives. It doesn't have to be gross because it's healthy, you know? Just like, for instance, if you're grilling a chicken breast, season it. You know, it doesn't have to be boring and bland and lame. Find you a spice that you love or some kind of marinade that isn't high in calories. I'll give you guys one of my little chicken recipes. A lot of times I'll cube up chicken, and then I'll put some Italian dressing. I'll cook it on the stovetop. Put some Italian dressing, mustard, and Worcestershire sauce, and talk about delicious. So what you do is you just cook it on the stovetop. All of the liquids from the marinade will keep the chicken nice and moist. And then what we'll do is we'll cut a salad, and then we'll pour the chicken on top of the salad, and all that extra marinade will go on top of the salad, and then you add some ranch, some cheese, and talk about a delicious meal. And it's so easy, very few ingredients, but that marinade spices up the chicken like you wouldn't believe. And that's one way to make a meal that would otherwise be kind of boring and bland into something that's good and exciting. So but so later this week I will be getting into more of the minerals, and then you guys let me know of anything that you'd be interested nutrition wise, and I'll be happy to do the research for you guys and try to get that information to you. And then if you follow me, you also know that I handmade hula hoops. So if you're looking for something for Christmas, a gift for anybody really, you can get it for your grandma, you can get it for your 2-year-old. Hula hoops are instant joy. So if you're really having trouble shopping for someone, a hula hoop is really a good gift for anybody. It'll bring joy to Christmas Day. I've given so many hula hoops for Christmas, and it's like the highlight of the party always. It makes people, you know, get that nostalgia of being a young kid again and just being outside and enjoying life like back when. I'll have so many like grandmas that'll buy hoops for their granddaughters and be like, I want to show them what we did when we were younger, which is so cute. I just love that so much. So if you're struggling with a gift, then come check us out for Christmas. All hoops are handmade by me, and it's just something that I incorporate into my weekly routine to try to be a better version of myself. And I mean, by no means am I I'm having workout sessions with these hula hoops. I'm just grabbing them, like I said, sometimes to distract my mind or to relieve stress, or I even like to hoop when I'm happy. It's just one of my coping mechanisms, really. And it's one of those small steps where it's like you don't have to overthink it. Just grab your hula hoop and get in 5-10 minutes, and it's better than doing nothing, So you can always find me on my website, www.idreamofhoops.com.co. And if you have any questions about sizing or what someone might need if you're buying it as a gift, just message me. I'm always happy to help with sizing. It can seem complicated. There's so many different sizes, but I am your girl if you're looking for a hula hoop for Christmas, or just a fun, quirky gift that it's not something that they would be expecting. I'll catch you guys on the next live, and I hope y'all have a great day.